This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
A shortened edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, leading you up to Bills Titans at 6:30 here on 97.3 ESPN. 609-403-0973, the PlaySugarHouse.com text board to get in on the conversation. Again, only here for 30 minutes tonight. We got NFL Tuesday Night Football. You know, the last time there was Tuesday Night Football, Joe Webb and the Vikings taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. That's how long and how infrequent it is. I was just talking, John Clayton brought this up earlier on the Sports Bash. There's only been 3 Tuesday Night Football games in the history of the league since World War II. And I'm going to see 2 of them in my lifetime. The other one was in 1946, and to the chagrin of many, I'm definitely not that old. Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. We got to get to this Jim Schwartz stuff because there were things that came out of Jim Schwartz's mouth today during this press conference that made me look around and say, did anybody else hear that, or is it just me? Plus, we'll get into some NFL talk as well before we get out of here on the show. Don't forget, we got a doubleheader of sports tonight. Bills, Titans, 6:30 coverage begins, and then following that will be Astros, Rays, Game 3 in progress right here on 97.3 ESPN. And if you're like me, tonight's a weird night for you because fantasy football-wise, I have Stephon Diggs on my fantasy team, and I've been waiting until Tuesday night. You know how they say on Sunday Football, Carrie Underwood sings, waiting all day for a Sunday night. I've been waiting all weekend for a Tuesday night because of Stephon Diggs. I mean, it's just such a bizarro world we're living in 2020. Speaking of bizarro, so I know Mike Gill and Hunter Brody brought these cuts up earlier in the show. So Jim Schwartz spoke to the media today, and he said some things that really confused me because and I preface this by saying I am not an anti-Jim Schwartz guy. I am not the guy who always complains about Jim Schwartz. And I think that there are things that we can talk about later in the week about what he said about Lamar Jackson that are very eye-opening and that give you some really great insight into the Eagles versus Ravens game this Sunday, which you can hear right here on 97.3 ESPN this Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff. Eagle fans will be there, by the way. If you didn't see that news, go to 97.3ESPN.com. We got all the details about how many fans could be in attendance this Sunday at the Link. But Jim Schwartz said some things today about Sunday's game that were very eye-opening. They opened the media availability for Jim Schwartz, asking him about the Claypool touchdown on Nate Gary. This is part of his explanation, and I still can't believe he actually said this. Take a listen.
Backing up isn't in our lexicon when it comes to that situation. We're trying to hold them out of field goal range. It's a 2-point game. We had just missed that field goal, and we got a chance to get the ball at midfield, get them stopped, maybe force them to do a long field goal of their own. We're trying to stop the first down there.
He says backing up is not in our lexicon or vocabulary. He says that we're trying to hold them to a field goal. Now, the problem with Jim's explanation there is, number one, you say backing up is not in your vocabulary, but at the same time, you're admitting something that honestly is very dangerous. What you're basically telling us is that you had planned for one thing and they did something completely else. Which means basically that you just didn't adjust. Well, if you didn't adjust, then what's the point of everything you're usually doing if they took advantage of you? More from Jim Schwartz.
we had injury at corner, trying to protect the corners a little bit more at that point, and we put the stress on the inside players, which was different than what we had been doing in that situation. What we had called was good against what they had called, but Ben recognized it. It's probably inside of the 15 seconds for being able to change the call.
All right, two things there. Number one, he says, we had the right call, but Ben changed the call. So now what you're basically telling me, Jim, because you said that it's under the 15 seconds. Remember in the NFL, once it's under a certain number of seconds on the play clock, the coaches cannot talk to the players anymore. So their mics and their communications is turned off. That's why, for example, a lot of teams, they try to wait to show their hand against the Rams until 12 seconds or less on the clock. So Sean McVay can't tell Jared Goff what's coming. It's one of the strategies that Bill Belichick used in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But listening to Jim Schwartz, he says, basically telling you, what happened on Sunday was on the players. He's saying, we had the right play call. He says, our goal was to keep them to a field goal. He says, our plan was to do this and that. And then he says, Roethlisberger changed the play. It was under 15 seconds. We couldn't change it. Oh, and by the way, here's a little more from Jim Schwartz on that play.
Every defense has a strength, and they also have spots that aren't as strong. Ben went to the spot right there. They made the play. But as far as being aggressive, we're trying to stop the first down right there. And that's what Nate's trying to do. So he sits down on that route because that's where the sticks are, and he goes over the top. It's similar to a corner giving up a double move.
So saying without saying it, Jim Schwartz is basically telling you that play was on the players. The players didn't do their job. And then Jim Schwartz drops this little nugget a little bit later in the media call.
Again, in that situation, we were in zone defense. And in zone defense, there's a lot of times that you can end up with linebackers and safeties on wide receivers. It just depends on who's in your zone. And, that's what happened in that situation.
I'm sorry. That didn't look like a zone defense to me. Maybe, Jim, you called a zone defense, but the players didn't execute. Because that was a zone defense. Why does Roethlisberger, if you go back and watch all of the game breakdowns online of that play, or just watch it yourself, Roethlisberger points to Juju and he points to Chase Claypool, and he tells them both, you got to make adjustments. We're changing the play on the fly here. We're changing the route. And he's purposely changing it because he's trying to get the safety over the top to go a certain way. That's not a zone. Jim Schwartz's explanation, and for as hard as the guy tries to, and he does an incredible job at this every press conference, he doesn't throw players under the bus. He's not a guy who goes to the media and calls people out left and right. It's not his style. But he's basically telling you, without overtly saying it, I called the play. The Steelers made a change. The defensive players didn't do their job. Nate Gary failed us. The other defensive players failed. That's why they scored a touchdown. He's saying it without saying it as much as possibly he can. Absolutely incredible. And again, it gets back to the conversation we've had all day today on the Sports Bash. It gets back to the conversation we had yesterday on Game Night. This Philadelphia Eagles team did not hand Jim Schwartz and Doug Peterson a full deck of cards. And I understand that's partly a Howie Roseman problem, because obviously somebody in the organization, whether it was Howie overtly or somebody telling Howie, one of his scouts or his evaluators or somebody on the staff telling him somewhere, the roster's good enough as is. Whoever that person is did a horrible job. They completely and utterly failed this franchise in that manner. It's absolutely incredible. By the way, Jim Schwartz was asked about that point today. When he's asked about, well, don't you guys need better players then? Better linebackers? Schwartz didn't really want to answer that question.
Well, I'll leave team building stuff and roster management and stuff to Doug and Howie. So I really can't answer your question right there. I'm confident in the guys we have. We're getting the young guys up to speed. I think our emphasis is on 11 guys playing better, not any one position.
I'll leave the roster building up to Howie and Doug. Again, Schwartz is telling you without telling you the problem here. The problem is the players on the field. I know everybody wants to point to the coordinator and the coach because it's an easy scapegoat. And I understand that nobody really likes Jim Schwartz anyway at this point in time. But he's telling you without overtly telling you the players are the problem. And if you're watching an Eagles game and you think for any moment in time that Nate Gary or Duke Riley or any of these guys are good enough, you're out of your mind. You are out of your doggone mind. And Schwartz is overtly telling you, I called a play. It didn't work. This is what happened. This is where we're at. He's telling you. He's laying it all out for you. But yet everybody wants to say it's Jim Schwartz's fault. It's not all Schwartz's fault. Is it Jim Schwartz's fault they didn't make better adjustments? Yes. Is it Jim Schwartz's fault that at halftime they didn't do something different in the second half? Yes. Is it Jim Schwartz's fault that Nate Gary and Duke Riley are not competent, quality NFL linebackers? No. Is it Jim Schwartz's fault that half of his cornerbacks are all injured? No. Is it Jim Schwartz's fault that this organization handed him a defense whose second and third levels are much lesser quality than the front 4 or 5 players? No. There's only so much Jim Schwartz can scheme. There's only so much he can do with what he has. If you've ever watched a Patriots game, you realize that Bill Belichick is the greatest defensive mind of probably the last 20 to 30 years. But what do you notice in the history of Belichick's time with the Patriots? He only can take the talent so far. He can only take the talent to a certain point, and then it's on the players to get it done. When he didn't have Richard Seymour anymore, when he didn't have Chandler Jones anymore, he had to get creative with his blitz packages. And he wasn't able to get the same pressure because he didn't have that one special player to create pressure on the edge or up the middle. When he didn't have a high-level middle linebacker anymore, whether it's a Carroll or a Brewski or a Junior Seau, the play of the linebackers, he did his best to cover up for it. But his teams only got to a certain point. Every time Belichick has won a Super Bowl in a lower-scoring game, he has high-level defensive players. Whether it's the coach of the Giants or whether it's the coaching with the Patriots. And if you ever notice, when he loses a Super Bowl, it's because somebody made a big play like Eli Manning, or it's because the defense completely choked in a shootout. I'm telling you right now, I don't think Belichick could do anything more than Jim Schwartz is doing with Nate Gary and Duke Riley. This roster is just not good enough. They don't have enough talent. They have talent in certain position groups, but not on the whole. And by the way, Jim Schwartz was hired and brought into the NFL, and he had his first jobs in the league thanks to Bill Belichick. I'm not saying he's Belichick, but I'm just saying that if you think he's one of the worst defense coordinators in the league, I don't know what to do for you. Does he need to make better adjustments? Yes. But he's a horrible defense coordinator? No. 609-403-0973 for the PlaySugarHouse.com text board. 609-403-0973 on the PlaySugarHouse.com text board. Place your legal sports bets at PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up now and the match your first deposit up to $250. Must be 21 or older to play. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 609-403-0973 is text board only here till 6:30 tonight, because coming up next, Bills-Titans. Tuesday Night Football on 97.3 ESPN FM.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Timeouts have never, it's always been the head coach's responsibility here. There's been a couple times over the years that we've had 10 guys on the field.
That was Jim Schwartz. He asked about, hey, Jim, can you call a timeout in that situation? Oh, I said, that's the head coach's responsibility. If you want to say something about Jim Schwartz, could he take a little more responsibility? Sure. But did he do that after week 2? It was all his fault, right? I don't know. I don't think Jim Schwartz is the bad guy like some people try to make him out to be. 609-403-0973, the PlaySugarHouse.com text board. 609-403-0973. Get on the conversation here on Game Night with Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN. We're only here till 6:30 tonight. Of course, Bills-Titans coming up next on 97.3 ESPN Tuesday Night Football. Game Night being brought to you by GMS Law. Make the right call. With 4 convenient locations to serve you, visit them online at gmslaw.com. Those of us who have fantasy interest tonight, I guess Stephon Diggs going tonight. Not really sure what I'm supposed to do with that, but hope for the best, right? Get to the text board before we get out of here. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Let's see here. Dan from EHT. Now, Dan is sending so many texts. I have to actually scroll up through his texts to get to the beginning, because I don't want to shortchange Dan and EHT from his original point in all this. All right, Dan from EHT. I've been trying to tell you all about Schwartz. He has to get off his high horse, start adjusting and game better. Schwartz rubs me the wrong way. He makes it like he's smarter than everybody else. He certainly wasn't smarter than Big Ben. All right, that's the first thing he brought up. So let's get into that. There is an aspect of Schwartz where he does believe that he has a high understanding of the game of football. And I genuinely believe that maybe that does rub people the wrong way. It certainly doesn't rub me the wrong way. I actually enjoy listening to Jim Schwartz talk because I find what he has to say interesting, because there are many times in a presser that he brings up a point or he brings up something that stands out to me that I find very interesting. I don't think he's smug, but I think that he doesn't fit the Philadelphia style or the Northeast style of attitude. He's much more of a middle-of-the-country kind of guy. So he's a bit matter-of-fact. He's a bit abrasive at times. He will rub you the wrong way. So I totally understand that. But I have to kind of agree with Schwartz on this point. and this is something I've seen a lot of people who are breaking down film bring this up. The Eagles players didn't adjust to the Ben Roethlisberger play there for Claypool. And I bet you that if I spent enough time reviewing the game 2, 3, 4, 5 times on tape instead of just 2 times, I'm sure I could find other instances where the Eagles players didn't adjust. Jim Schwartz can only put these guys in a position to be successful. It's on the players to get the job done too. And I think that Nate Gary and Duke Riley and people like him are just incapable, absolutely incapable of being starting linebackers in an Eagles or any NFL defense at all. I just think it's simple as that. 609-403-0973, PlaySugarHouse.com text board. Now, texter, I don't know if your name is George or Jorge because you spelled it Jorge. So let me know which is, but you're from Smithville, I see. You said, I hope Diggs get in the end zone. I'm with you. Hey, man, listen, we've been waiting until Tuesday night for Diggs to get in the end. We waited to do something. I honestly think the Bills are going to win this game tonight, straight up. I really do, because the Titans have been not playing for, 14, 15 days now? They haven't played football? 16 days, whatever it is. The Bills have been playing. The Bills are fresh. I'm a big believer in the Titans world got turned upside down, and the Bills have been able to keep kind of doing their thing. So I think the Bills win tonight. I think it's going to be close initially, and then the Bills pull away. I think Singleton should have a good game tonight. I think that Josh Allen could have a couple bombs to Stephon Diggs. I do think that the Bills are going to win tonight. The Titans will keep it interesting because they're a good football team and they're well coached. But I think ultimately the Bills win this game tonight. Coming up next here on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, he says, yeah, it's Jorge. Thank you. Appreciate that. Jorge from Smithville. Thanks for texting in. Jorge also says, who is Allen throwing to? He's throwing the Diggs, all caps. I hope so, man. I don't know if Diggs is going to have the biggest game of his career, but he's going to have a good one tonight. I feel pretty comfortable about that. Coming up here on 97.3 ESPN. By the way, your Sports Bash keyword, final keyword of the day. As I get out of here, take this word to 97.3 ESPN.com or the 97.3 ESPN mobile app for your chance to win up to $10,000. Your word this hour is phone. Like your smartphone, your telephone. For those who are old enough to remember those things. Yeah, phone is your keyword. Take that word right now to 97.3 ESPN.com or the 97.3 ESPN mobile app for your chance to win up to $10,000. Thanks to Jersey Shore Federal Credit Union, now in the Peachtree Plaza in Hamilton. I'm Josh Hennig. I'll catch you tomorrow.